In this video, I'm going to be going over how to develop the feature definition list for inlets. So going to the same feature list I have been building for conduits, for drainage areas, this is where I'm going to start building out the node list here. Again, this is going to help you see all of the features in a list form to check for completeness. It's also going to be very helpful when you're organizing the symbologies and element templates in your level assignments, as well as building out your folder structures. So I'm going to be starting over here in the feature definition section. And this is where I'm going to start building out the list for the features. I'm going to be starting with inlets, and then I will move to different element types for nodes. And this list is going to look different for each workspace. But basically, you're going to start by checking the agency's standard drawings list and carefully review the different types of structures that you're going to need to include in the workspace. Now, before you start looking at the standard drawings, I think it's a good idea if you first get familiar with how the cells are going to be modeled in drainage and utilities for the different types of structures. And this is going to be helpful when you're building out your list. Drainage and utility cells have special elements on construction class that drive the placement, rotation, and reporting values of the features. And I have those listed here. There are a couple of extra ones that have been added for set out points where we can additionally get an extra XYZ location of the structure. So that set out point is either going to be on line style 1 or 2. All right, so I want to focus on an inlet first. When we think of inlets, these are going to vary in height. So we're going to have the initial drawing of the cell. It's going to be top to bottom. But then we can change the invert elevation, and then we're going to have a middle portion that's going to be programmatically filled in by extruding between what we call the top cell and the bottom cell. So when you're building out your cells for your inlets, you're going to have top cells and bottom cells, and then you're also going to have a plan representation. So you're going to be juggling 3 different cells, and each one of these cells have their own unique construction class elements that are going to be placed. So moving up to a plan cell, we have the location point. This is going to be the place where you place it. So this is where you can snap to a flow line or ditch bottom. So you'll want to think about how the user is going to be placing these. And then when we put the alignment point and line, the purpose of this, it's going to exist in all 3 cell models, but it is going to align the 3 cell models together so that they move and rotate as a unit. Now I'm going to give some comments on this particular drawing. I think that the alignment point is best grouped with the location point. So wherever your location point is where you should put your alignment point. And then the alignment line itself is very important, the direction that it's going to go when we think of inlets. So I would put the alignment point here, and then I would have the alignment point line going the other direction towards the center line of the road. And the reason for that is when we want to get information from the model, whether that be a longitudinal slope or a cross slope of the roadway, that is going to be read relative to that alignment line. So right now this would be getting a cross slope back here, and that would not be correct. We would want to have the cross slope read towards the center line of the road, so we're actually getting the slope from the roadway model. And then perpendicular to that, we're going to be able to grab a longitudinal slope from the placement point. So wherever you choose that placement point, that's going to drive where the alignment point and line is in all 3 of your cell models. So moving back down to a top cell, you're going to have that alignment point and alignment line in the same location you had in your plan cell. And then we're also going to have this top elevation point, which is going to give us the rim elevation. And then we have the bottom cell, which we are going to also have that alignment point and line. And that's going to be on the top surface of the bottom cell and the bottom surface of the top cell. And then we are going to have a bottom elevation point that's going to give the invert elevation of the structure. And then we'll also have these connection regions. So when we do a box structure, typically like to have some narrow connection regions that have to be a shape on each of the sides. And this is going to make it to where when we connect conduits, they're locked into a certain area so that you're not having conduits come in at a corner. Additionally, in the latest release, 10.11 of Open Roads, we can also add a construction point to the center of the structure. And so that means we can connect the node to the center, and then it will trim it to the connection regions along the side. Right, so anytime that you're going to have a different set of these construction class elements, if you need to report differently from one structure to the other, that is going to mean you'll need a separate feature definition.